From Sigma Woman, this is the Business for Aligned Women podcast. I'm your host, Clara McKay, your aligned business coach and advocate for all things showing up for your vision. This is a no BS space for brave-hearted women who are actually craving change. I'm dedicated to bringing women's visions into reality, equipping women with all they need to build an abundant future, and shutting down all of the ways that you keep yourself small. Here, we're all about a women-centered approach, non-negotiable value alignment, and making bank without compromising your well-being. Each week, you're already one step closer to your most aligned and abundant future. We have a very in-depth conversation today with a lovely client of mine who I just adore, and I can't wait for her skills and her medicine to be received on a wider scale. Her name is Maggie Saunders, and she is a hypnotherapist. So today we're going to be talking about why your subconscious mind is a superpower as a small business owner, and how to drop limiting beliefs and harmful habitual behaviors, and how to use hypnosis to create next level confidence and space for growth. She's so in depth with her knowledge. She's very self-aware, and she's also very aware of the difficulties that especially women business owners face and the things that we kind of put ourselves through and the self-sabotage that's happened. And she's a wonderfully compassionate person. Before we jump into that episode, I wanted to invite you to check out my free consistency masterclass. This is a free masterclass where I'm going to take you through lots of different little tips and hacks that people aren't generally aware of in order to build consistency in your business as a female business owner, as someone who's wanting to run an aligned business, a business that is taking into account their personal values, their personal well-being, their hormones, their stress levels, and really nurturing all of those things. So this is a free masterclass. Head to the link in bio if you would like to check it out. And there's also an opportunity to book a free call with me. I have just a couple of sessions left for my next cohort, which is starting in September. If you would like to have similar experience to what Maggie has had working with me. To prep you before we get into this interview, I wanted to share a couple of things about Maggie and the way that she works. A big part of her work, which I feel is linked in with that compassion piece, is that she is particularly a shame-free approach. And she encourages women to pursue their desires in both life and business unapologetically. So she's all about that, letting go of people-pleasing, letting go of staying small, letting go of not taking up space. And she wants to center you of your mission. She wants you to start asking yourself, how good can it get? This is the guiding principle that propels her clients towards unlocking the full potential of their businesses, relationships, and lives. Let's get into it. Maggie, thank you so much for being here. I would love for you to start by introducing yourself.
Absolutely. I'm so happy to be here. Thank you for having me. My name is Maggie Saunders. I am a certified hypnotherapist and a coach. I work with people both in their life, in their business, and all of it is focused on the subconscious. How is their subconscious showing up in their work, in their movement practice, in their relationships, in their bank account? I've been trained to understand the way the subconscious works, and better yet, the way the subconscious changes. I work mainly with women, some men who are really well aligned, and mostly millennial women out there in the world.
Cool, speaking my language. And it sounds like it's a really whole life approach.
Yes, absolutely. I have never seen a way in which I can help people create change and not look at each aspect of their life, because we are a whole person, a whole being. I think in society, in at least my upbringing, I was somehow led to believe that each part of my life stands alone. My body was one thing, and my money was one thing, and my job was one thing, but I am the thing that connects them all. So anytime I'm working with someone, it's, I believe, my responsibility to help them look at each area of their life and see how it's playing together, how it's working with their subconscious or against their biggest dreams and desires. It's pretty fun because you end up finding out that, wow, Your money is affecting your relationship is affecting your body, and it is all in fact connected.
Yeah, I love it. So cool. As you said, your work focuses primarily on targeting the subconscious mind. This is quite a buzzy term. We hear it a lot. I don't think many people have a really good grasp as to what it actually is. Could you give the listeners a debrief on what working on your subconscious mind is and why it might be helpful?
Absolutely. At the very basic level, your subconscious mind is all the decisions and thoughts that you're making without having to consciously think about that. So, a really simple example of this is if you're grabbing your water bottle from the table and then it starts to fall and you reach out really quick and grab it before it falls to the floor and makes a really loud sound. Your subconscious told you to do that way before your conscious mind ever realized probably the bottle was falling or even knew where it was in space. All of those things happened in your subconscious mind. Now, that's a very tangible example, but if we look at a more nuanced example, say you're deciding if you should book that vacation to Hawaii or not. You might think, oh, it's all my conscious mind deciding. I'm looking at logistics and flights and amounts and who can go with me. But really, your subconscious is playing all these parts that you might not realize of, are you worthy of this trip? Is it safe to go to Hawaii? What will other people think? And those decisions being made kind of behind the curtain are going to, in fact, decide what you do more than your conscious thoughts. So when I'm working with somebody, the real core question we're talking about is, most people that I work with, especially the women I work with, because they're so intelligent, they're so passionate, they're so driven, they've done so much with their life most of the time, they know what they should, quote unquote, be doing. They know how to do something. May it be run their business or lose weight or be more open in their relationship. They get the how. But what I help them with is then why not? Why aren't you doing it? Why are you holding back? Why aren't you making those decisions? Because the why question is going to be answered in their subconscious beliefs, what they believe about good relationships, running a business. I know you know that one really intimately. So working with your subconscious is all about figuring out what are the thoughts going on beneath the surface. And even more than that, what are the beliefs that you have attached to those thoughts? And as adults, can we go in and decide which ones you want to keep and which ones you want to recycle to get what you want out of life?
That analogy is a really helpful analogy.
Yes, absolutely. And something that really resonates with that and is wonderful for people to know. And when I learned this, it absolutely changed my life and the way I do and decide most things, is that your subconscious's job, everyone's subconscious's job, is to keep us safe and alive. That's it, period. Not happy, not contented, not peaceful, not excited, none of that. That is something that we want, but our subconscious is just here to keep us alive. So whatever our minds have associated with alive and safe, our subconscious will do more and more often. When I learned that, the reason it was so impactful is because I realized that I have to very consciously, in very patient and loving ways for myself, retrain my mind to understand what I deem as safe and unsafe, not necessarily what me at 3 years old or me at 7 years old or even me at 21 years old deemed safe or unsafe, so that I can be more in control of my subconscious mind now.
In saying that, and you brought it up a little bit there, most of the listeners listening to this are either women business owners or they want to be in the future. They're aspiring to become business owners. Why, particularly for business owners, do you think it's important for them to work on their subconscious mind?
Oh, what a great question. And to the listeners is, I say, go for it. Especially if you are in the realm, as you are listening to this podcast, probably somewhere inside of you that there's something really pulling you towards this. I just want to give a big, loving applause forward for you. And the reason that I think focusing on your subconscious as a business owner, an entrepreneur is so important is because inevitably, and I know you talk about this, entrepreneurship includes risk. That's part of the equation. Or small business ownership, you're putting yourself as the person who's going to make the decisions, bring in the profit, bring in the customers or the clients. There's a natural risk happening there. And inevitably, risk will make our subconsciouses react again because of the need for safety. So what I've seen is many people will start a business with this notion that they're somehow going to do it without experiencing any risk. Or if they're feeling uncomfortable, nervous, worried, any anxious feelings, then they must be doing it wrong. There's more to learn, or there's something about them that they can't swing in. Whereas what it usually is they haven't taken the time to work with their subconscious and reassure themselves at a really deep level that, yeah, this is kind of risky. This is different. This is maybe unfamiliar if they've never done it before. Here's all the ways we're going to mitigate that risk by educating ourselves, by getting a really amazing coach, by being in therapy, by learning through books or other podcasts. And if they take the time to fortify their subconscious with this reassurance, then in the harder moments, new moments, uncomfortable moments, they have a lot more capacity to keep going instead of feeling like, oh, I just can't do it, and giving up and going back to whatever it was that originally felt safe. And as a business owner, I constantly have to remind myself that the nervous feelings I have are natural. And instead of following those and letting my subconscious latch onto those, I have to direct it back to all the things I'm doing to care for and take care of myself and my business. And for example, working with you was a huge one of those things, to let my subconscious know we have support and expertise so we can calm down and quit trying to run away.
Amazing. What you just said just brings up so many things for me. To reiterate, deciding to become a business owner, I do believe it's one of the biggest personal development, spiritual practices that you can do, because you are asking to be facing risk, facing rejection, facing failure, facing discomfort most days, like to an extent, most days. And I strongly believe that as a business owner, your biggest job is to maintain emotional equilibrium despite what's going on. And if you're running by, even more so, your subconscious mind, I imagine it as being like pushed and pulled and tugged by those subconscious impulses. And it would be incredibly difficult to maintain equilibrium if you're just constantly being pushed and pulled by them.
Yes, exactly. And I call that subconscious tension, this tension in between your subconscious saying, get out of here. This is not safe. This is not what's familiar. We are uncomfortable. We're not supposed to be uncomfortable. And then the part of you that's like, wait, but in the discomfort is exactly what I want. Leaving my corporate job allows me the opportunity to make an infinite amount of money as an entrepreneur if I put in the work and stay consistent. And that's something I really appreciate about what you share, is the fact that self-awareness and self-care and knowing your values is an essential part of being an entrepreneur, not a secondary if you have time or when you've made the million, but like from day one, it is the secret to longevity. And I feel like you showed me that in our coaching, you show that in your own business, and like that message is what can really change it for people, instead of, again, feeling like once I've succeeded in the business, that'll prove business is safe and then I can take care of myself. Like that is never going to work. It never turns out well.
Doesn't work that way.
No.
That's not the, yeah.
And I've tried it, so
Yeah.
I can vouch, does not work.
It's just not the organic process that happens. And it's interesting that you bring up the value alignment theme, because I guess that's where there's a nice complementary aspect of your work and my work, is that if you know, the main reason I push value alignment so much is that it's a decision-making tool or a filter for decisions. And most people, especially women, I think, have so much decision fatigue and they're so overwhelmed. And if you think about like decision fatigue, overwhelm, overstimulation just from being alive, and then the subconscious mind pushing and pulling you, it's not surprising that people really procrastinate and really struggle to decide and commit to changes. So having those values as your filter is like one hack to help quell the subconscious mind's impulses potentially.
Mm-hmm. Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. Because to give like the behind the scenes look, the answer to usually, almost always, I'd say 98% of the time, that someone I work with or potentially would be working with and was talking beforehand knows what to do, like what they should quote unquote be doing. But the why for why they're not doing it is usually because they have no idea what their values are. So trying to decide when to do what and how and what matters and what doesn't is almost impossible. And so they've likely just been following either their original caretakers, mom and dad, or whoever it was, what they deemed as what you're supposed to do, or they know their values, but they're very actively just not doing them. And that almost creates more tension because they know it's not going to work and they're doing it anyways. Because again, there's that tension between safety or what they really want. So I think you're absolutely right. And once I figured out my values with the help of you, even if I'm not making the decisions that serve me, I know exactly why they're not serving me. So at least I'm not in the dark about it. And then I get to do my work to get back in line.
Yeah, I would love for us to come back to the hypnotherapy aspect that you do of working with the subconscious mind. Can you talk about like how it's actually different to standard talk therapy or personal coaching?
The way that it's different from, I'll start with meditation, is I once had someone, a colleague, mention that they describe hypnotherapy as meditation with a goal. So in there's so many forms of meditation. I'll never act like I know all of them or the core of all of them, but many that I've interacted with, the goal is to relax or to quiet or calm the mind, just to let the thoughts move past without much attention and find some peace there and clarity. And with hypnotherapy, it's much more of a journey where you are going somewhere specific for something specific. Now, that journey can be and will be vastly different for each person and every time they do it. I do hypnotherapy almost daily, and I constantly am going into new universes and imaginings and places and different things representing different things in my mind. But there's always somewhere I'm going for a reason. And sometimes that reason could be to just calm down, similarly to meditation. But the process with which hypnotherapy is done helps people reach a deeper theta state. And theta brainwaves are the second slowest brainwave, right above delta. And in a theta state, which people go into all the time naturally, there's something called highway hypnosis. That's when you drive home from somewhere you've been many times, and then you get home and you're like, oh, I didn't know I was driving. I'm just suddenly home. You weren't asleep for sure, but you also weren't consciously paying attention. Your subconscious had taken over. People also experience a heightened theta state right as they're coming up from a nap or right as they're falling asleep. A big place people are running theta waves is while on social media. Social media is the best, most effective hypnotist tool I've ever seen because people will be on there for hours and they won't even know it. Time will just pass. So the difference between meditation and hypnotherapy is that hypnotherapy has a very clear goal and a very clear process you take every time to help people dip into their theta waves in their subconscious, make changes, and then come back up to what we'd call a waking state. So either of those, the difference is that Usually in therapy, there's a lot of conversation about what you're experiencing or what you have experienced and what that could mean. And what gets missed is when you close your eyes, which in hypnotherapy, you almost always close your eyes. And listeners may have experienced this before, you are able to access different ways of thinking because your brain isn't having to process visually stimulating things, even just the person in front of you or the computer screen or whatever it is. Hypnotherapy almost always leads people to, again, what's really going on, not the story they've been telling about what's going on. May it be the story of their childhood, the story of their boss, the story of their relationship, their story of their day. They start getting in tune with what all of that is representing. Is their boss reminding them of their dad? Is their partner reminding them of a situation when they were a child? And there can be change made because instead of reiterating and deepening in the story of their life, they get to see what the story is representing. And again, make changes, decide which thoughts they're going to keep, which thoughts they're going to recycle. And in hypnotherapy, the biggest thing that surprised me with it was the things that would come out when I was in a relaxed state. Not like secrets or anything like that, but the things that I was even hiding from myself because of all the chatter and stories and conversations and even like the distraction of, complimenting my therapist or paying attention to them instead of paying attention to me. Once I could reach that deeper theta state, and even now when I do it, I'm able to really hear, oh, I'm hurt, or I'm scared, or this person reminds me of that, or I feel like I don't know what to do. I need help from someone. Again, instead of just replaying the story of what I think is going on.
It's so interesting. So, how can people integrate this into their life? And I know one of your offers is a really beautiful starting place for people to start doing this, and that's your membership. I could really see the membership like slotting into my life. I could see it slotting into a lot of my clients' lives and it not feeling overwhelming. How can you talk us through the membership and anything people need to know about that or how you want people to use it?
Absolutely. The membership is something that I have been lovingly caring for and adding to over the past 3 years. And it is a hypnotherapy membership specifically focused on how to help people build certain parts of their life into something that feels really good. So that could be the amount of money they're making. They want to increase that, or they want to change their relationship to money, or it could be around relationship or body or food. The membership holds quite a different amount of recordings in both length of time, ones that are hypnotherapy recordings as short as 5 minutes, all the way up to 45 minutes at the very longest. And it's a place where my goal is for someone to come and be able to find a tool for them to use about their specific need and have to not do any work beyond put in headphones, lay somewhere or sit somewhere comfortable, and for anywhere from 5 to 45, but usually around 20 minutes, just be led through a path that will get them what they want. And ideally, they're doing it exactly as you were saying, once a day, especially if you could do it once a day for 21 days. That's where research has shown the most transformation happens. Because if anyone takes anything from this podcast that I've said that is really useful, it is that subconscious change, the secret to subconscious change is in repetition. The thoughts we have are there because we repeated them many, many times. So any new thought that we want comes from repetition. So the membership is there as a resource for people to get those repetitions in a really relaxing, beautiful, easily organized way. And it is a library of recordings, but I also do a live recording at the beginning of each month that centers around a theme. So for the past 3 months, we've been working with money. We'll be doing that for 2 more months, different aspects of people's relationship with money. And I love to be in pretty direct communication with my members. So sometimes people will say, oh, I had this great idea for a theme, or I've really been struggling with this. And you want to hear something so magical? I don't know what it's exactly teaching me, but I love it. More than 5 times, several different members who don't know each other and are either in different parts of the world, if not the country, will come and request the same thing in the same about 2-week span. It's like they are somehow connected, and they'll all come and be like, the most recent one was people coming in and saying, can we work on the relationship to our potential, like believing that we have infinite potential no matter of our background. They don't say it the exact same way, but ultimately it's the same theme. I've always thought of that as like a little bit of magic that's going on in the membership. And it's for women. But we have had a few male members and they were always welcomed, but it's directed more towards women and the things that they're experiencing, the patterns I've seen over and over again with my clients. And all of my one-on-one clients are inside of the membership because I want them utilizing that resource as much as possible. And I can tell you, the ones who choose to do the 5-minute recording every day for our entire container always have faster results in whatever it is that they want. The what could be different, but the speed always increases with the more they actually engage in the membership.
Yeah, I especially love, obviously, and I do a lot of longer practices, and I think you do need to have those longer practices at least a few times a week, but having that option for it just to be 5 minutes or 10 minutes, I think is so nice and just feels spacious. I'd love to know, what are the most common things that people are seeking support with, and why do you think they are so common?
Okay, this is a great question. And I was just looking at some case studies I've been doing over the past like 18 months. Some of the biggest things are this. Well, I'll talk on 2 sides, because there's what people come in for, and then there's what they find once we start talking about their subconscious. A lot of people come in for, I'm procrastinating. I can't seem to get anything done in my business or at my job or whatever my to-dos are. And then when we dig into it, what that commonly is the thing that they're trying to do, they don't actually even want to do at all. Someone just told them it was a good idea, or their parents directed them to it, or they think that by doing it, they will be safe. So that's a big thing. Another one is that this is a huge one, is that their expectations are so high that doing anything is terrifying, because basically the fall is so far if they don't do it just right. Women will, especially in business, they will procrastinate to high heavens because their to-do list is like 30 steps long per day, and includes multiple tasks that could be their own independent job. And the idea is that, oh, I'm just going to do all of these every day forever endlessly. Well, of course, a part of them is like, that's not safe. We're not even getting started. Some other common things that people come in for is feeling like I'm usually the last stop on the train. That's what I say, is that they've done therapy, they've done meditation, they've done courses, they've listened to so many self-help books and podcasts and TED Talks, and they're like, why do I still feel unavailable for happiness in my life? Like I just feel kind of numb, or I feel like I'm searching. And when they come with that, what we end up finding is that happiness, feeling good, feeling excited, is actually scary, because in their life somewhere, usually somewhere in childhood, either they never saw happiness in adults, so they literally don't know how to do it, or when they were happy, something unpleasant happened, or the people around them were jealous or did things to knock them down. And then another one is women who want these big, beautiful lives, not necessarily like public lives, but just full of friendship and love and intimacy. And sometimes it's even physical things like land and a nice house and pets and maybe even children, things like that. They are at the same time terrified of all that attention. And so they play really small. They try to take up the least amount of space they possibly can, even though that goes against their deepest desire of having this big infinite, exciting life. So I'd say those are some of the biggest things. And then most often there's anxiety going on. There's a sense of like impending dread. Usually, like the common phrase is feeling like the next shoe is going to fall, and not saying, not speaking up about what they want or what they don't want in their life.
Yeah, so many things and lots of things that I see all the time in my work. And I think that that people pleasing, hiding, staying small element is probably one of the most common things I see. And the funny thing with it, because it's counterintuitive, because you're people pleasing and staying small to be perceived as nice, right? But
Exactly.
when you do that for long enough, you become incredibly resentful, incredibly frustrated, and I will put 10,000, that person will flip out at some point or attack someone else or become really nasty, and then the whole facade is destroyed anyway. So rather than kind of that self-defeating prophecy, let's like stop doing that in the first place, because it's either way, it's not going to work out well.
Exactly. Exactly. And this is something that it's a little cheeky, but I found it to be true over and over again. The people who want to play small and hold back their needs and their thoughts and everything are some of the best manipulators, because they're trying to be in control of everyone around them, of their feelings about them, of their experience. And usually that has come from some need, again, often in childhood, of parents or adults that weren't in control of themselves. So they, as a child, figured out how to control the situation as best as possible. But you're exactly right. It builds resentment, and either they blow up on somebody or they destroy their life so much, even if that's a physical sense or keeping themselves so hidden away, that it never ends in the positive outcome, which I think is ultimately, oh, everyone likes me. No one sees me as a threat or anything negative, and then that way I'll get everything I want. That's just not how life works. We are not meant to be perfect creatures. We are complex and we are weird and we have needs and we disagree about stuff, and like that is being a person, and there's no way around it.
Yeah, the labor in trying to micromanage everyone around you and maintain the facade of nicest person on the planet as core brand identity, that is so much labor. Like, it doesn't surprise me at all that these people feel too exhausted to take action.
It is so hard. I had a mentor once tell me the most energy you will ever expend is the energy you use to be someone you're not. And I think anyone who has tried that path, which is a lot of people, especially women, to be what they are not, either act like they don't feel that way, or act like they're more personable when they're not, or act like an extrovert when they're an introvert, that is the most exhausting work you'll
Yeah.
do.
It's just constant curating and restraining. And yeah,
Exactly.
yeah, that just sounds like my worst nightmare. All right, we'll start finishing up with a couple more questions. I want to ask two questions about your experience working with me last year. We did 3 months of aligned business coaching last year. I'd love you to reflect on that process, and also if you have any wise words that you'd like to share for anyone who's on the fence about coaching with me.
Mm. Oh my gosh, I have so much I could say, but I will distill it down. When I came to work with you, I knew something had to change. And I knew who I was looking for is somebody who I, speaking of manipulation, could not manipulate into my story or my excuses or my old patterns. Because with hypnotherapy, before we ever met, I realized I need someone who believes in me. And the way in which they believe in me is they hold me accountable. They don't let me wiggle out of my potential. I work with a lot of people, and the type of work I do can be very, what's the word? Like gentle, soft, easeful, calming. That's kind of the nature of hypnotherapy. And I was like, I don't want a ton of that. My life is full of that. I need someone who is powerful and direct and will call me forward and will do it with kindness, but with like, let's get going. Okay, come on, come with me. And so when we talked, that's the exact energy I felt. And one thing is, I so appreciated your forwardness in saying that you are autistic and what that meant and how that affects the way you interact and coach and even the way you show up on screen, because it was like this. It was like the superpower I feel like you have. And I don't say that to give that story to you or to say that you have to think of it that way. But for some reason in my mind, that's how I interpreted it. I knew that the words you were saying were the words you meant. There was no hidden meaning. There was no secret behind it or thing you weren't saying. You were just telling me what you knew to be true, what you knew would help. And that was just incredible. So I loved our 3 months together. I got more done in 3 months than I would have with you than I ever would have on my own. In that 3 months, I built and launched a whole new program. I increased my clients by like triple, and I wasn't trying to. Like, I didn't start with that at all. It was just having you there as accountability and believing in me with your willingness to not let me wiggle is what my subconscious needed to be like, okay, let's really do it. And then since then, my business has exploded to the point that I have to go back to my values and be like, whoa, okay, how are we going to organize this? So we still have plenty of time for self-care. We still have plenty of time for the things we really want. And what I would say to anyone who is on the fence is that I can't imagine any reason to wait to do this because, one, we are mortal beings, and I believe there's no time like the present. But two is Kara is this well of knowledge and honesty. And a lot of the questions I think people have, how do I do it? When do I do it? How do I scale it? When, where, how, what? You provide the answers for. And so why waste 2, 3, 6 months just running around in a circle around those questions, and instead work with somebody who can give you very personalized, but well-researched and clear answers. To me, that is just, it's a resource I was worth 10 times what I paid in my investment. So I would tell them, do it and do it soon, because she books up fast and it's worth it.
That's so funny. Thank you. Yeah, and it's so nice to hear someone say that they appreciate that there isn't subtext in my communicating. And I think that's so freeing and so spacious and so permission giving, but I get people aren't used to it. You know, that autism as a superpower thing, like that's actually been studied, in Harvard Business School and business suggests that corporations hire more autistic people because of pattern recognition skills and also just out of the box thinking that's not as restrained by the social norms that holistic people are really concerned with following. Yeah, I'm totally happy to take on that. I fully see that your business is just going to keep on going, and the main issue that you have is reining in and controlling the level of success so that it's still serving you.
Yes,
Directly,
exactly.
directing, channeling what it's going into so that you feel the best you can be.
Exactly. Exactly. That is such a perfect way to put it. I just got this visual of like, sometimes it could feel a little bit like a waterfall, like a very intense waterfall or geyser. And exactly, my job right now is lasering that in so that all that energy and power has a place to go instead of just everywhere. You absolutely taught me that. And I think of things you've told me, and I go back to just literal documents we created literally every single day. And I don't see when I would stop doing that. So even just those resources alone are unbelievably helpful as something I don't have to try and redecide or re-come up with every single day.
Yeah, then I love it because that's how they're designed to be used. And it's so good. It's just an indicator of your own commitment and ability to put the blinders on to all the other stuff that's going on and just stay on track with your plan. And I love that. Last little main question. What would you say to any women They don't just need to be business owners who are letting their subconscious mind hold them back from taking up space and doing the things that they want to do.
Oh, this is a good question. I'm going to think on it for a moment. I would say to them that your subconscious will always be with you. There is no getting rid of it. And even when you're asleep, even when you're not paying attention, no matter what, it is there and it is running. I would almost ask, why not program it to run in the way you want it to? Just like we personalize everything else in our life, from our desktop background to our profile on Instagram to the way we curate our closet or our home. Why would you not curate and decorate and fortify your subconscious with the same love and care and interest? Because instead of it having to be a thing that's messed up and you're fixing, you get this opportunity to see it as this amazing, endless resource that you can customize to work exactly for your dreams and desires. So why not? Why not do that?
Yeah, see it as part of your vehicle. And do you want to be like pop, pop, pop breaking down on the side of the road? Or do you want to have a smooth trip and get to where you want to go?
Exactly.
And the car is the subconscious mind and you're going in it anywhere anyway. And why not get it serviced?
Exactly. There is no downside to choosing what you want to think. There's no downside.
Yeah. And I think like even that sentence, I know a lot of people listening need to be expanded on the fact that you can choose what you think.
Yes, you absolutely can. I'm happy to show people how to do it, but so are so many millions of people in the world.
Is there a particular place that would be the best offer for people to start with on this journey of servicing and getting that subconscious mind working the best way possible for them?
Yes, I would say my membership is a great place to start because there's a variety of ways you can go at it, even just starting with the things that seem the most simple or less charged for you up into the much bigger things. And it's a wonderful place to ask for customizations if you want that too.
I will pop links to everything. So if you want to check out Maggie, you want to follow her, you want to look at those offers, just head to the show notes of this episode.
Thank you.
Thank you so much for your time today, Maggie.
Absolutely. I had a blast. And also thank you for trusting me with your community. I don't take it lightly, and I'm so happy to be here.
Oh, of course, I'm sure there's been lots of really expanded women after today's chat. If you can't tell, getting to share this time with you is something that I find truly sacred. I know that you're busy, but if you've taken anything away from our time spent together today, could you extend the love and share this episode with a friend, your community, or on your socials? Tag me so that I can see it and I can share it too. Or when you have a spare moment, leave the podcast a review. These things cost you nothing and will mean so much to me. Let's get this resource into the hands of more women visionaries and help us collectively move towards our most aligned way of being and doing business together.